The observation deck of the Varellan dawn shimmered with a bluish hue, lit by the glow of distant stars and the pulsing core of the ship itself. Commander Alara Voss stood at the curved viewport, hands clasped behind her back, her breath steady despite the low attention that had followed her ever since she'd stepped aboard. Her uniform, a sleek slate-gray ensemble with the crest of the Earth Diplomatic Corps, was pristine. It had to be. She was Earth's first human observer aboard an Inari command vessel. She was not here to act. She was here to watch, to report, and to avoid interference at any cost. A soft clicking sound preceded the approach of her assigned liaison. Envoy Telek moved with eerie grace, his elongated limbs folding neatly at his sides, his glossy black eyes catching the starlight like mirrors. The Inari were not beautiful by human standards, but they held a kind of ancient elegance, like statues carved from bone and shadow. "Commander Voss," Telek said, voice modulated, smooth, "you've reviewed the itinerary for tomorrow's diplomatic ceremony on Aran Station?" "Yes," Alara replied, without turning. "I'll remain aboard during the proceedings, per observer protocol." Telek paused, his gaze unreadable. "Curious. Many in your position would request to attend, even if unofficially." Alara turned now, offering the smallest of smiles. "Curiosity is not the same as purpose, and my purpose is to observe, not participate." The envoy inclined his head, almost a bow, though she suspected it was a gesture adapted for her benefit. Of course. In truth, she had wanted to see the station, a marvel of cooperative engineering between 5 species, orbiting the neutral system of Zir. But stepping foot onto a place so politically volatile might be seen as symbolic, and symbols started wars. After Telek departed, Alara returned to her quarters. The door slid shut with the softness behind her. The room was minimalistic. Inari design favored stark lines and silence. She pulled out her private recording device, one not connected to the official diplomatic logs. "This is Commander Alara Voss, personal log, entry 4. The Varellan Dawn continues to exhibit discrepancies between its declared diplomatic mission and onboard activities. Observed increased military drills in Sector 3. Presence of heavy weaponry remains unexplained. Crew morale seems tense. Envoy Telek either doesn't know or chooses not to disclose." She stopped and added, "No action taken. Yet." She slept poorly. The artificial night cycle dimmed the halls, but Alara's mind remained active, unraveling details from the day. The tension wasn't just her own paranoia. It was in the way the Inari moved now, less fluid, more precise. In the sudden silence when she entered a room, in the encrypted data pulses she'd intercepted during an idle scan of local systems. The next morning, she joined a group of officers in the observation gallery for the official update briefing. The gathered Inari stood like statues, their stillness unsettling. Telek's voice carried over the room, delivering updates on the ship's course and mission timeline. Everything sounded routine. Perfectly, deliberately routine, until a low, vibrating alarm rolled through the ship's walls. The lights flickered. Conversation ceased. The officers stiffened, glancing at one another with unspoken alarm. Alara remained still, watching. Telek pressed a note on his wristband. "Bridge, status." A moment's delay. Too long. A clipped response came through. "Unscheduled engine fluctuation. Stabilizing. Cause undetermined." Murmurs rippled among the Inari. Telek's expression didn't change, but Alara noted the way his fingers twitched, the way his gaze flicked barely to one of the officers standing behind him. A signal. Within moments, Telek dismissed the gathering. The officers dispersed efficiently, some with more urgency than they tried to hide. Alara made her way toward him. "Unscheduled engine fluctuation?" she asked casually. "Minor," he replied. "You're lying," she said, not as an accusation, but as fact. Telek turned his full attention to her now. "Careful, Commander. You are here to observe. Observation does not require confrontation. Observation doesn't require lies, either." A charged silence. Finally, Telek offered thin, humorless response. "Your presence has not gone unnoticed, Alara Voss, nor has your attentiveness. I suggest you maintain the boundaries your position affords you. Before she could respond, he was gone. Later that cycle, she found herself drawn to engineering, pretending to examine the ship's environmental controls. A young Inari technician, a junior officer she hadn't seen before, slipped beside her. "You shouldn't be here," the technician whispered, voice trembling. "I'm just observing," she said. "Isn't that what I'm supposed to do?" The technician glanced nervously around. "They're hiding something. Something big." It wasn't a fluctuation. It was a weapons test. Internal. Ilara narrowed her eyes. Weapons test? On a diplomatic vessel? They're not planning on reaching Aaron Station. What do you mean? They say we are, but something changed 2 cycles ago. Orders started coming from outside the diplomatic chain. Who gave those orders? I don't know, the technician said. But I think they're going to start a war. And they want the humans to be the ones who see it happen. Before she could press further, a senior officer approached. The technician vanished down a corridor. Ilara returned to her quarters and stared at the encrypted transponder on her desk. Her orders were clear, no interference. But if the Varellan Dawn was a weapon wearing a diplomatic skin, Earth was being used. Or worse, framed. She recorded again. Commander Voss. Supplemental log. The mission may not be what it appears. Multiple signs of covert military activity aboard the vessel. An anonymous source suggests intentional deception by high-ranking Inari. I will continue to monitor, but contingency planning may be necessary. She paused, then shut the recorder off. That night, the stars outside the viewport seemed colder, and somewhere, deep within the hull of the Varellan Dawn, something stirred that had nothing to do with diplomacy. Ilara paced the perimeter of her quarters, restless. The revelation from the technician gnawed at her like acid. A war, sparked from within a ship parading as a diplomatic envoy, with her, Earth's representative, placed as an unwilling witness, or worse, a symbol. She replayed the technician's words again and again. They want the humans to be the ones who see it happen. There was a message in that, not just to see, but to report, to carry the story home. Earth, still new to the interstellar stage, would be caught in the narrative of an incident it didn't start, perhaps even accused of complicity. The political implications were catastrophic, and her hands were tied by the very protocol meant to protect neutrality. She pulled the transponder from her pack. It was only to be used in emergencies, and never without clearance. But the moment was approaching where rules began to feel like shackles. Ilara tapped a code into the device's interface, hesitated, then closed it. Not yet. She moved toward the data node embedded in her wall, a hidden link she'd been using to access non-classified parts of the ship's network. It was a careful dance, never breaching security outright, just skating its edge. Tonight, though, she was prepared to push further. If they were planning a strike, it would leave digital footprints. The system pushed back hard, layers of encrypted files nested within benign data. She found a communications relay marked maintenance traffic, but its encryption was far beyond standard. She was about to abandon the attempt when a folder blinked open, just for a moment, revealing a list of coordinates and a target name, Station Zir. A diplomatic station, neutral territory. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. Not defense, not a feint, a strike. The Varellan Dawn was going to attack Zir. Her door chimed. Ilara froze, slid the terminal shut. Yes! Telek entered without waiting for permission. He was unaccompanied. Odd. You've been active tonight, he said softly. For someone committed to non-intervention. She kept her expression neutral. I couldn't sleep. Of course not. His gaze lingered on the data node. Do you know what happens when observers forget their place, Commander? Enlighten me. They become participants. And participants have consequences. The edge in his tone was deliberate, measured, but Ilara noted something new in his posture. Tension that hadn't been there before. Not hostility. Something subtler. Conflict. She took a risk. Tell me what's happening, Telek. You don't agree with it. I can see that. He looked at her for a long time, then turned toward the viewport. You think you understand us, he said. But you don't. The Inari don't wage war for land or pride. We do it when survival demands it. So this is survival? It's preemption. The Union is fractured. Zir Station is a weak link, built on treaties that were never meant to last. The moment it falls, old powers will reveal their true colors. We are not starting a war. We're positioning ourselves to survive one by being the first to draw blood. He didn't answer. Earth will not support this, she added. Earth has no choice. You are already here, already watching. The only question is which story you'll tell. With that, he left. She didn't sleep. The next day, the technician found her again, this time under the guise of replacing a corridor panel. His hands shook as he passed her a slip of thin, transparent polymer, encoded with location deep within the vessel. Engineering Subdeck 7, sealed to all but high-ranking crew. They're moving equipment down there. Weapons. Possibly something worse. I can't access it, but you might be able to record it. Why help me? She asked. Because I believe in the Union, he said, and I don't want to see it burn. Alara didn't hesitate. That night, cloaked in a maintenance uniform, she slipped into the subdeck. The halls were narrow, unlit except for dim red strips along the floor. Her boots barely made a sound. She found the door, locked biometric, but she had expected that. From her pocket, she pulled a fabricated Inari digit, grown from a culture taken from a discarded food utensil, a gamble that now paid off. The lock accepted it. The door hissed open. Inside, a room full of sleek crates, humming softly with active cores. She recognized the configuration. Planetary breachers. Illegal in most systems. She recorded everything. Then a sound behind her, a shift in air, the telltale whisper security drone activating. She turned too slowly. A burst of blue light struck her shoulder, and darkness took her. She woke in confinement. The room was sterile, shadowless. Telek sat across from her. You disappoint me, he said, not angry, simply tired. You lied to your own people. I followed orders. From whom? He didn't answer. They plan to frame Earth, she said. Make it look like we sabotaged the station, triggered an escalation. He nodded slowly. Yes. Something in her chest hollowed. And you're okay with that? No, he said quietly. But it doesn't matter what I'm okay with. She stared at him. For the first time, he looked human, not in form, but in burden, the weight of someone caught between orders and morality. She leaned forward. Then help me stop it. Silence. Then, release is conditional, he said. You will be returned to your quarters. All access privileges revoked. You will remain until after the strike. She stood. You know I won't do that. He rose as well. Then make peace with the outcome. But when the guards escorted her back, there was no additional surveillance. No lock on the door. Just the sound of the corridor echoing her heartbeat. They were watching. Waiting. She activated the emergency transponder. A warning pulse shot back to Earth. Uncoded. No time to encrypt. Then she sat, waiting for the sound of war to begin. The silence was unbearable. Alara sat rigidly in her quarters, eyes fixed on the terminal. No new messages. No alerts. Just a soft, insistent pulse of the emergency signal she'd sent into the void. It wasn't coded, couldn't be. There hadn't been time. With luck, someone at Earth Command would catch the signal. With even more luck, they'd interpret correctly. But luck had never been part of her training. The ship shifted beneath her, a subtle tremor signaling a course change. She knew without checking that they had veered away from the official trajectory toward Zir Station. The Inari weren't hiding it anymore. They didn't need to. Whatever was about to happen, it would be swift, decisive, and devastating. Her door chimed. Not Telek this time. The technician, Kess. He slipped inside quickly, sealing the door behind him. His breath came in fast, shallow gasps. They've armed the warheads. Full payload. They're going to hit the station within the hour. Alara's stomach turned. How? Retrofit assault pods. From engineering. They're disguised as cargo freighters. And the crew? They know. He shook his head. Most think it's a drill. Only Command has full clearance. How do you know this? I hacked the targeting system. I saw the sequence. They're masking the attack as a Union-wide systems test. No one will question the signal until it's too late. She stood, pacing. Her mind moved faster than her body, calculating. We need to delay the launch. Kess gave a weak laugh. You'd need a direct override in the central control nexus. That's suicide. You'd be flagged the moment you touch the interface. Unless we make it look like a systems failure, Ilara said. You're talking about sabotaging the core routing node. That's halfway across the ship. I'm not asking you to come with me. Kess hesitated. I know. She moved her console, opened a schematic of the ship. Lines of corridors and service tunnels lit up the screen. You'll have to cause a distraction, she said, eyes scanning the fastest path. Something in engineering. Pull enough power to trigger an alert. They'll reroute all monitoring to your sector. He gave a slow nod. And you? I'll kill the launch system from Nexus 3. It'll buy time. Maybe enough for Earth to respond. She offered him a hand. He clasped it, his alien fingers cold, his grip uncertain. Good luck, Commander. You too. They parted without another word. Ilara moved fast, sticking to auxiliary routes, ducking into alcoves as officers passed. Her heart pounded, but her steps remained steady. She was running on instinct now. Action had replaced fear. Halfway to the core nexus, the lights flickered, then the alarms began. Kess had done it. The corridor flooded with flashing red, and the ship's automated voice droned out a warning. Power redistribution in progress. Engineering anomaly detected. All crew maintain current stations. She slid into the nexus chamber unnoticed. The central interface loomed before her, a crystalline structure embedded with interlocking nodes, each one humming with energy. She approached the primary command ring and inserted her override key. It wouldn't last long, but it didn't have to. The system recognized her as diplomatic personnel. Limited clearance, but enough to mask her access briefly. She located the targeting system's routing string and began corrupting the data feed, inserting falsified diagnostic flags. Power failure, atmospheric instability, thermal surge. As the override took hold, the countdown stopped. The attack pods froze in their launch bays. Ilara exhaled once, sharply. Then the doors behind her hissed open. Telek stood there, flanked by 2 security officers. He did not look surprised. You were never going to stay neutral, he said. You were never going to keep this diplomatic. She shot back. He dismissed the guards with a gesture. They hesitated, then left. You forced this, she said. You backed Earth into a corner, hoping we'd either condone your strike or be too late to protest it. Telek stepped closer. You don't understand the consequences of an action. The Union is decaying. Zir Station is a symbol of unity that no longer exists. Better to strike while we have the advantage. By dragging Earth into your war. He was silent. Ilara took a step forward. I saw you hesitate. You don't want this any more than I do. Telek's expression cracked, just slightly. A flicker of doubt beneath the mask. There is no stopping it, he said. You've delayed the launch, but the Council will override you. The order came from above me. Then help me make it cost them. Telek blinked. What do you mean? We send the logs, the targeting data, everything. We expose them before they can rewrite the narrative. You'd be disavowed. She smiled faintly. I was never supposed to intervene, remember? For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he reached into his sleeve and withdrew a memory shard. My personal log, he said. Everything since the moment I received the orders. He placed it in her hand. Go. I'll cover your exit. You're not coming? He shook his head. I'll do more good here. Someone has to face the Council. She nodded once. Thank you. Ilara didn't look back as she fled. The corridors burned with alarms. Officers shouted across comms. Systems glitched and rebooted. She slipped through the chaos like smoke. Back in her quarters, she activated her secure uplink. The shard pulsed with blue light as its data spilled into the transponder stream. Then she sent everything. The The targeting logs, the weapon schematics, the launch orders, Telec's confession. A full data package bound for Earth, and every diplomatic hub in Union space. She deleted her local copy. No trail, no chance for interception. The moment it sent, the ship shuddered. The attack pods deactivated. The engines powered down. It was over, or more accurately, just beginning. Illyra stood by the viewport as the stars stilled. Behind her, heavy boots approached. She didn't turn. Telec's voice came through comms. They know. The Council knows what you did. She responded without fear. So does everyone else. There was a pause. Then Earth just responded. They're demanding an emergency summit. She smiled. Let them. In the cold silence of space, the truth had found its voice, and the war, perhaps, had been delayed by a single, defiant observer. Illyra stood before the Council chamber on Vero Prime, her boots planted firmly on the stone floor etched with centuries of political history. The room was vast, shaped like a crescent moon, its high walls embedded with living crystal that pulsed in sync with the speaker's tones, broadcasting not just sound but emotion, a technology meant to encourage honesty, though it had rarely succeeded. 12 counselors formed the Ark, seated on platforms of varying heights according to seniority. Their expressions were unreadable, save for the faint flickers of tension betraying their calm facades. The Varellan delegation had not expected her to survive, much less walk into this chamber armed with testimony and truth. Beside her stood Ambassador Thalen of Earth, recently arrived, summoned only after the exposure. A soft-spoken, analytical woman with a reputation for neutrality so ironclad it made her presence here a statement in itself. Behind them, a wall of silent observers, Union delegates, minor diplomats, media representatives from across the systems, all watching, all recording. Counselor Rovin, the eldest and most severe of the 12, leaned forward, voice heavy with ceremony. Commander Illyra Miles, you've been accused of violating the Interstellar Observer Protocol, specifically Clause 16, interference in internal military affairs. Do you acknowledge your actions? Illyra didn't flinch. I do. A hush fell. The crystal walls dimmed. Rovin tilted his head. And yet you stand here with your rank unbound, unshackled. Do you believe yourself innocent? I believe I chose the lesser crime. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Explain, said Counselor Vesk, younger, more ambitious. Illyra's voice was calm. The Varellan Dawn was preparing to launch an unprovoked strike against a neutral station. A station which houses citizens from every core system, including Earth. You ordered the fabrication of evidence. You planned to frame the attack as a Union failure. I intervened to stop it. I accept the consequences. Vesk narrowed his eyes. You offer no denial? I offer proof. She stepped forward and handed the Council a secure data shard, the same one Telek had given her, now embedded with corroborating logs, her own sensor readings, and encrypted confirmation from Kess, who had since disappeared from the Dawn's crew manifest. Silence reigned as the Council's internal processors absorbed the data. The walls flickered, then steadied, a signal that the information had passed integrity checks. Counselor Rovin's jaw tightened. You accuse our command structure of conspiracy. These are grave charges. I accuse those responsible, she said evenly. Not your people, not your culture, just those who sought to start a war while pretending to preserve peace. Another murmur. Some nods, one or two stunned expressions from the outer seats. Thalen spoke next, her voice smooth, deliberate. Earth supports this testimony. We received the transmission. We verified it independently. The footage and metadata were authenticated by 5 neutral systems. Rovin glanced at her, then back to Illyra. And what would you have us do? Confess? Beg forgiveness? Illyra didn't answer right away. She looked up at the chamber's ceiling, where a lattice of glowing threads mapped the alliances of the Union. Lines flickering in real time, pulsing with strain. So many connections, all poised on the edge of unraveling. I would have you choose, she said finally. Admit what was attempted. Hold those who ordered it accountable. Or bury it and watch the Union tear itself apart one manipulated truth at a time. The silence was longer this time. heavier. Then Rovin spoke, his voice low. You risked everything. Your commission, your life, your planet standing. For what? She met his gaze, unflinching. For the truth, because that's what an observer is supposed to protect, even when everyone else forgets. The chamber dimmed again, absorbing her words, transmitting them across the Union in waves of amplified tone and emotional resonance. When the hearing adjourned, Ilara stepped outside into the cool twilight of Vero Prime. The sky was a hazy gradient of lavender and gold, dotted with the blinking lights of distant orbital stations. Telek stood there, leaning against a transport pillar. You survived, he said without irony. So, did you? She replied. He gave a tired shrug. The council needed a scapegoat. I volunteered to provide context instead. They preferred it to scandal. Will they take responsibility? Some will. Quietly. There will be changes, but not all at once. I didn't expect all at once. He studied her for a moment. You were supposed to be a passive element, a diplomatic observer. Yet somehow you became the story. She gave a small smile. That was never the plan. No, he agreed, but maybe it was necessary. They stood in silence for a while, watching the sky. A message pinged on her comm. Earth Command, observer status terminated. Reinstatement pending review. Diplomatic security will debrief upon return. Transport authorization approved. She closed the message. Guess I'm going home. Telek nodded. Will you come back? If there's peace to protect? Maybe. He looked toward the stars. Then let's make sure there is. She turned to go, but paused. You should keep watching too, Telek. I never stopped. Their paths diverged at the docking bay. As Ilara's transport lifted from Vero Prime's surface, she looked down at the world fading beneath her. A planet of contradictions, of fire and diplomacy, of threat and promise. And yet, somewhere amid the chaos, a small shift had begun. She wasn't sure what Earth would decide. She didn't know what the Union would become. But she knew one thing with unshakable certainty. The truth had been seen, and someone had chosen to act. That, she hoped, would be enough to light the way forward.